The indigo shadows of the sanctuary stretch long against the cooling stone. As the clock strikes the 7th hour of the final day, there is a specific gravity to this late assembly, a gathering of the weary who carry the dust of the weekend on their souls and the anticipation of the coming labor in their quieted hearts. Here, under the dimming rafters, the air is thick with the scent of extinguished beeswax and the lingering sweetness of the afternoon's incense. Yet something more ancient begins to stir. The choir, a small constellation of voices in the loft, prepares to breathe life into the silence. Their harmonies not of a triumphant morning, but of a deep, sustaining dusk. We stand at the threshold where the temporal meets the eternal, where the simple fruit of the earth and the work of human hands are poised to become the sustenance of the soul.
Listen to the rustle of the grain
in the wind of the Judean hills,
the sound transposed
into the soft shuffling of feet moving toward the center aisle. This is the threshed gold of the field, ground between the heavy stones of our shared burdens, moistened by the tears of our collective longing, and fired in the kiln of a love that refuses to remain distant. The lyrics of Kuni rise like a slow-burning flame, reminding us that we do not merely come to observe a miracle, but to be consumed by one.
I myself am the bread of life.
The melody insists,
Not as a static relic behind glass,
but as a living pulse, a brokenness that heals, a poverty that enriches the beggar and the king alike. The 7 p.m. choir understands the nuance of the minor key, the way the harmony leans into the dissonance of our daily lives before resolving into a grace that feels like coming home.
in this bread there is the memory of the Passover moon and the shadow of the cross, yet it is flavored with the hope of an empty tomb. It is the food for the journey through the wilderness of the modern street, the calories of the spirit needed to survive the indifference of the world. As the cup is raised, it reflects the amber glow of the vigil lamps, a reservoir of mercy for the parched throat. We are invited to a table that knows no borders, a feast where the currency is faith and the only requirement is hunger. The choir's song becomes a between the altar and the exit,
a reminder that the liturgy does not end when the doors are locked, but begins when the crumbs of this sacred meal are carried out into the dark. The architecture of the evening is built on these phrases: those who come to me shall not hunger, spoken into the hollows of our own inadequacy. We are a people of the twilight, seeking the light that does not fail as the sun departs. The bread is passed, the wine is shared, and in the intimacy of this 7 p.m. communion, the distinction between the giver and the gift begins to blur. We become the body we receive, we become the life we celebrate. The music swells,
not in a roar of pride,
but in a tidal wave of surrender, washing over the pews and the stained glass, soaking into the very marrow of those who kneel. It is a radical hospitality, an invitation to lose oneself in the breaking, and to find oneself in the gathering as the final notes
of the hymn drift
toward the mission accomplished in the quiet transformation of the room. The Sunday night silence returns, but it is no longer empty. It is pregnant with the grace of the bread of life. We walk out into the cooling city, under the stars that witness our smallness, bearing within us the fire that was kindled at the altar. The week ahead may be long, and the challenges may be many, but the resonance of the 7 p.m. choir remains a rhythmic heartbeat of hope, a persistent echo of the promise that we shall never walk alone, fed by the hand of the one who is both the host and the meal.
The sanctuary amber glows with the residue of a day spent in devotion, where the scent of beeswax mingles with the damp coats of those who gather in the 7 o'clock gloaming. We are the Sunday night remnant, the tired lungs and the earnest hearts standing on the precipice of the great coming, while the city hums its indifferent anthem beyond these stone walls. Here, the score rests on music stands like white birds awaiting flight, carrying the weight of Michael's melody and the ancient dust of the Judean wild. It is a summons that begins in the diaphragm and ends in the stars, a visceral vibration of comfort whispered first by the wind through the cedar branches, and now amplified by the collective breath of a choir that knows the exhaustion of the world. We lean into the cadence, our voices weaving a tapestry of longing that stretches back to the Babylonian exile, and forward to the morning star that has not yet risen above the horizon of our waiting. Beneath the vaulted ceiling, the command resonates to make straight a highway in the arid wastes of our own indifference, to soar down the peaks of pride and lift the sunken trenches of our despair. We sing of topography turned holy, of tectonic shifts in the spirit, where the rugged terrain of a broken life is plain smooth by a grace we cannot manufacture. The flute traces a line like a swallow over a dry creek bed, and we follow its ascent, mindful that our flesh is but grass and our constancy like the wild flowers of the meadow that succumb to the first sharp frost. Yet, as the ink on the page catches the dimming light, we affirm that the word of our God is the only architecture that does not crumble, the only foundation that remains when the echoes of our Sunday evening service have dissolved into the quiet of the coming week. We are the heralds of a wilderness that is not a place of desolation, but a laboratory of the soul, where the silence is finally loud enough to hear the approaching footsteps of the one who comes to govern with a strong arm and a shepherd's heart. How tenderly the melody cradles the promise of the lambs gathered into a divine embrace, held close to the chest of the infinite, where the shivering stops and the journey finds its rest. Our harmonies are the bandages we wrap around each other's wounds, a polyphonic balm that declares the warfare is ended and the iniquity is pardoned by a double measure of mercy. In the 7 p.m. stillness, we are no longer just accountants, teachers, or laborers, but conduits of an ancient prophecy that demands a highway be carved through the stone of our stubbornness. We feel the pull of the rhythm
a gentle but insistent thrumming that mimics the heartbeat of an expectant mother. The rhythmic labor of a world groaning for its deliverance. Each note is a stone laid in the path, each rest a moment of breathless anticipation. As we prepare the way for the glory that shall be revealed to all flesh together, a vision so blindingly beautiful, it requires the dimness of this late hour to be even partially understood. The shadows grow long in the nave, stretching out like the vast plains of the Arava. And we lift our eyes to the heights of Zion, where the messenger stands with a voice that must not falter. We bid our fear depart into the darkness of the vestibule, for the Lord God comes with power, not to crush but to nourish, leading the nursing mules with a patience that outlasts our shortest days and longest nights. Our choir is a small flame in the Advent frost, a flickering testimony that the desert will bloom and the parched land will bubble with springs of living water. As the final chords hang in the air, vibrating against the stained glass and the wooden pews, we carry the desert within us, but a desert that has heard the news of its own transformation. We walk out into the Sunday night, the melody still humming in our marrow, certain that the voice which cried out in the wilderness is now the voice that guides us home through the cold toward the warmth of a stable that will soon contain the fullness of the Word made flesh. The mountains may smoke and the hills may depart, but the resonance of this evening stays rooted in the furrowed ground of our communal song. We've seen the glory in the ink and heard the herald in the alto sigh. And though the grass withers under the weight of the coming winter, the song we practiced at 7 p.m. is an evergreen vine climbing toward the light. We are the voice in the desert, not because we are loud, but because we are hollowed out to let the Spirit blow through us like a flute of bone, calling the scattered people to a feast that has been prepared since the foundation of the world. In the silence of the walk to the parking lot, the Isaiah 40 promise lingers like a fragrance, a reminder that every valley of our week is already being filled by the God who measures the heavens with a span and carries the broken in his bosom.
The tall shadow of Bukianiko stretches across the marble floor of history, not with the clatter of a soldier's iron, but with the silent tread of a man who found his God in the stench of the infirmary. You, who once threw the dice against the world's hollow promises, found at last the only wager worth the soul, the desperate gamble of love given to the dying. It was a wound upon your own limb that would not close, a reminder of the fragility of the clay we inhabit. Yet it became the wellspring of a mercy that knew no bottom. You turned away from the vanity of the sword to embrace the broken rib, the labored breath, and the fevered brow of those whom the world had cast into the gutters of neglect. In the echoing halls of San Giacomo, where the air was thick with the scent of unwashed pain and the salt of tears, you did not see a beggar's rags or a leper's sores. You saw the King of Glory crowned in thorns, waiting for a cup of water and a hand to hold in the gathering dark. The red cross upon your breast was not a badge of war, but a herald of the blood that heals, a crimson geometry of hope, stitched into the very fabric of service. You taught us that the hands of the nurse are the hands of the priest, and the bed of the sick is an altar, where the sacrifice of patience is offered up in the incense of endurance. Your heart grew larger than the chest that held it, a cathedral of compassion, where every groan of the suffering was met with the litany of comfort. You did not flinch from the contagion's breath or the rot of the flesh, for you knew that the spirit is refined in the furnace of affliction, and that the greatest miracle is not the walking of the lame, but the love that stays when everyone else has fled. Through the long nights of the plague, when the city was a sepulcher, and the living envied the dead, you were the lamp that did not flicker, the voice that whispered of a kingdom where there is no more mourning, and where every tear is wiped away by the finger of the Father. Give us your eyes, Camillus, to see the hidden dignity in the pale face of the impoverished and the trembling limbs of the aged. Let us understand that to serve the poor is to touch the very side of Christ, to feel the warmth of His presence in the cold rooms of the destitute. You were the giant of charity, stooping low to wash the feet of the forgotten, showing us that true greatness is found in the bending of the knee and the softening of the heart. The world measures power in gold and conquest, but you measured it in the weight of a body lifted from the dust, in the softness of the lint applied to a bleeding gash, and in the silence of a prayer offered for a soul on the threshold of eternity. Your legacy is not written in stone, but in the living tissues of those who care for the broken, in every hospital ward where the light of mercy breaks through the clouds of despair. May we carry the same flame that burned in your chest, a fire that does not consume but purifies, turning our selfish desires into a harvest of holy labor. In the quiet moments of the sick room, when the world feels distant and the shadows grow long, let your spirit remind us that we are never more like God than when we are serving the least of His children. You are the patron of the last hour, the friend of the final breath, the one who stands at the gate between this life and the next to ensure that no one crosses alone. Let our lives be a devotional song, a melody of mercy played on the strings of our daily deeds, echoing the rhythm of your own tireless devotion to the sick and the poor, until we too are gathered into that light where the physician is the great healer and every wound is a scar. Teach us the liturgy of the linen and the basin, the sacred architecture of a gentle touch, and the theology of a whispered word. In the midst of our modern speed, grant us the slowness of your deliberate care, the patience to wait with the restless, and the strength to carry the burdens of the weak. For in the face of the sufferer, we find the true mirror of our own humanity, and in the service of the poor, we find the only path that leads surely to the heart of the divine. Stand, Camillus, servant of the hidden Christ. May your red cross be the compass that guides us through the storms of indifference to the quiet harbor of eternal love. The digital flicker fades as the heavy bronze of Mediolanum swings upon the hinges of the soul. And the static of the modern street is drowned by the rhythmic pulse of a heart tuned to the ancient meters of the morning. Here in the brief space between the scrolling thumb and the eternal eye, we encounter the governor who became the shepherd, not by the will of the flesh, but by the sudden cry of a child echoing through the basilica like a divine decree. You seek power in the thunder of the forum, but find it instead in the stillness of a man who stood before the purple of the empire and forbade the threshold to a bloodied Caesar until the crown bowed lower than the cross. This is the wisdom that does not trickle from the parched lips of the sophist, but flows like the golden abundance of the celestial hive, where the bees of the spirit deposited their nectar upon the infant mouth of a sleeping saint. We walk through the architecture of the sentences, where every stone is a syllogism and every window is a hymn, designed to catch the first light of the eternal rerun. Conditor before the world wakes to its toil.
There is a way to this tribute that defies the lightness of the screen,
as we navigate the corridors of his rhetoric, where the law of the land was transmuted into the liturgy of the Lamb. He did not merely speak of the light, he fashioned the very lamps that hold it through the antiphonal chanting of 1,000 voices, rising in a single tide to wash away the dry dust of Aryan shadows. Witness the power that commanded the earth to yield the hidden bones of martyrs, so that the foundations of our faith might be bolstered by the crimson testimony of the soil itself. His wisdom was a sharp blade wrapped in silk, a gentle hand that guided the restless mind of the African rhetorician, from the labyrinth of the Manichees to the clarity of the Milanese font, where the waters of rebirth still the storms of a wandering heart.
We are the heirs to that quiet intensity,
the beneficiary,
the man who understood
that the true defense of the city
lies not in its walls,
but in the sanctity of its hymns and the unyielding posture of its bishop. In this fleeting moment of devotion, the YouTube horizon collapses, and the hashtags of the world are silenced by the gravity of the mitre and the staff. We explore not a map of dead geography, but a topography of the inner life, where the honeycomb of the word is tasted in the silence of the cell. Ambrose speaks across the chasm of the centuries, telling us that the emperor is within the church, not above it, and that the power of the believer is found in the bended knee rather than the clenched fist.
His legacy
is the fragrance of the
sanctuary
and the structure of the prayer that holds the dawn in its hands, preventing the darkness from reclaiming the world.
We pause in this digital atrium to feel the vibration of the Ambrosian chant moving through the marrow of our bones, a brief but monumental encounter with the architect of the Western spirit,
who knew that to lead men, one must first be led by the word. The tribute is short,
but the resonance is infinite.
as we breathe
In the incense of His courage
and the honey of His grace,
it is a call to the deep, to the hidden places
where the wisdom of the ages waits
to be rediscovered by
those who tire of the shallow currents of the day.
As the video concludes and the pixels rearrange themselves into the next distraction,
The image of the bishop remains etched upon the retina of the spirit,
a sentinel
of the sacred, a master of the melody,
and a father to all who seek the power that is perfected in humility. May the nectar of His eloquence soften the hardness of our speech,
and may the iron of His resolve fortify the weakness of our will, as we step back into the world, carrying the quiet fire of Milan within the sanctuary of our own private silence.
The amber wick of the 7th hour trembles against the cooling stone of the nave, where the day exhales its final gilded breath. We stand in the gathering gloaming, not as masters of the morning, but as stewards of the twilight, carrying the residue of the week's dust upon our sandals, and the weight of our brother's silence within our own throats. There is a specific gravity to this Sunday evening, a density of spirit that Richard and Betty once captured in the simplicity of a wooden flute and a heart laid bare. It is the geometry of the basin and the towel, the architecture of the bended knee that defines our gathering here beneath the vaulted shadows. We are a tapestry of calloused palms and weary eyes, woven together by the singular thread of a promise that we shall not walk the jagged path of the world in isolation. The air is thick with the scent of extinguished beeswax and the lingering echo of the Gloria. Yet here in the quietude of the 7 p.m. choir, the music becomes a living sinew, a ligament of grace that binds the broken to the whole.
To be the servant is to relinquish the ivory tower of the self and discern into the fertile valley of the other. It is to recognize that the Christ light we carry is not a torch for our own illumination, but a lantern held steady for the one whose oil has run dry in the thickets of despair. We look across the pews and see not strangers, but reflections of a shared fragility, a communion of pilgrims whose only map is the cadence of a common heartbeat. The harmony we seek is not found in the perfection of the note, but in the vulnerability of the breath, the way a soprano's plea nests within the baritone's resolve. We are learning the difficult vernacular of the foot washer, the syntax of the one who stands behind the burden of a friend to push when the incline becomes too steep in this sacred space. The boundaries